for these 3 months, I'm going to focus on this one area.
Yeah.
And the rest, if I set any goals, I will set what I call maintenance goals. What are the goals that or what are some of the steps that I need to take so that I don't fall backwards in that area? But I don't focus on like now having like just breakthroughs and like all the goals and everything within that area. It's like, now what's the bare minimum that I need to do? Let's say if you now focus on extreme example is Iron Man. If I now choose to focus on Iron Man, probably my relationship's going to suffer or I can't prioritize them. But what I will do is I will set the bare minimum. Let's say I will meet my friends like instead of like weekly or bi-weekly, or not bi-weekly, twice a week, I'll be like, maybe I'm going to do it bare minimum 2 times a month. I need to meet them.
Yeah.
So there's still the bare minimum, but it's not like I still maintain the relationships, but I'm not moving forward with like accelerating them maybe like more or like making them deeper, stuff like that. So I think that's the way I approach it, because another thing that I learned, and I think I read it in a book, 12-week year. Where is it? Yeah, 12-week year. Where they're talking about the concept of, you imagine that your year is 12 weeks instead of 12 months. Because a lot of times our brains just, if you now try to predict what will happen in 11 months, where you're going to be in 11 months, it's like, I didn't think I'm going to be where I am with the mindset that I have 11 months ago. I didn't think that. So that's why I like to focus on 3 months, because within those 3 months, there's enough change that can happen where, one, you might even reach that goal within those months because you actually focus on it and you take action on it. But also by the end of those 3 months, you can be like, okay, I think I'm ready to move into this area now. It's kind of like we talked about it. We wanted to touch on that idea of kind of, you don't clean your house sporadically.
Yeah, great example.
Yeah, like
great example.
So the way I would talk about it is like, you imagine like each room in your house, it's like a life role that you have. So it can be a spouse, it can be a business owner, it can be like employee, it can be brother, sister, it can be any kind of role, or like athlete in my case. So if I now try to go and clean all rooms at once, or I now go and do like 5 minutes in this room, then I go to that room, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I'm going to clean this as well. It's like, how clean will be the house? And not only house, I will feel overwhelmed because I'm cleaning everything, but nothing gets cleaned.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like, okay, I'm going to choose one room, which is like one area of life or one life role that you have, and I'm going to focus on this for this amount of time. And it's not always until it's fully clean, because in some areas there's more work to do. But like with this specific goal, this specific outcome that you might want to have, I just focus on this for this season. Then once this room is in order, I can move on to the next room. And I know that this room will be clean until most likely I'm going to go through the other rooms. And by the time I come back, I will need to clean this room again.
Exactly.
But there might be different kind of cleaning or level of cleaning that I will need to do.
Right.
And just do that one step at a time, one room at a time.
Yep. I'm so glad that you did bring that up. We talked about that because that's a really good example of really setting your goals, and focusing on it. And it just, it's so much more manageable, and it just takes the pressure off, and you don't feel overwhelmed, and you feel empowered.
Yeah.
Because you look, you're like, I can do this. I can do this. I couldn't do the other, but I can do this. And when you accomplish it, it just, I don't know, like I said, the momentum keeps going, and it just feels so good. You're like, wow, I really did. I said I could do it, and I actually did it.
And I think it also exciting. Helps with overwhelm. Because
totally. Totally.
Because instead of looking kind of similar to that mountain example, instead of looking at all the rooms, and now like you go in this room and that room is that and that one is that, and instead of doing that, you just go in, you just deal with this nasty room. You're like, okay, let's start with this, and let's close the doors to the other ones.
We'll get to it. It's gonna get done.
I'll get there. But also, as you finish this room, by the time you go to the next one, you feel accomplished. You feel better.
Right.
But
and you've learned how to clean the next room.
Yeah.
You've learned some tricks.
But I think the challenge with this is not something that feels as the best approach, because we want to fix everything today.
Yeah.
Especially New Year's. I want to change everything. I'm done with this life.
I want to be a completely new person.
Yeah, which you can be. But it's one room at a time, one step at a time.
Right.
And actually, I would argue that it's much more effective, because even though it might seem slower, you actually accomplish stuff.
Right.
And you do get results.
That's one thing, actually.
At least in my experience.
I even do when I'm sitting and working in my office. When there's, I'll do that as a daily thing. I'll be like, okay, today I want to accomplish this and this. And then I literally block my time off on my calendar, and I literally set a timer, and I'll pick one thing to work on, and I will set the timer 45 minutes, and I will shut my phone off so I'm not hearing it. And I will 100% focus. I won't look at email or anything else. I will work on that for 45 minutes until the timer goes off. And then I get up and I take a break and I walk around. And it feels like, gosh, I'm not, it can feel like I'm not accomplishing much, like you were saying, because I just worked on that one thing, but I kicked ass on it. I got so far ahead and got so much done in that one thing that I'm actually way ahead, because if I was working on 3 or 4 things, I'm only going to get this much done with all of them instead of getting this much done with the one thing.